Good morning, everyone. We'll just wait another minute or so for final attendees to join, and then we'll get started. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. This is the next in the Distinctly webinar series, and today we will be talking about future-proof PR strategies that work online and offline. Just for quick introductions, my name is Gideon. I'm a senior digital PR strategist here at Distinctly. I've been working in digital PR for just under 3 years now, and today I am joined by the lovely Chloe.
Hello. I'm also a senior digital PR strategist here at Distinctly, just coming up to working here for 5 years. So very much seen how digital PR has evolved over these years. And today we're going to talk you through some strategies that work both online and offline for your brand.
So just a bit of a quick agenda. We'll start with a bit of a contextual introduction, looking at how digital PR and traditional PR have been merging. Then we'll run through some strategies, some digital strategies for offline conversions, what this means for your brand, and then finishing off with how to measure this success. We'll finish off some key takeaways as well. And throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, you have the Q&A box. Feel free to drop some questions in there, and then we'll save 5 minutes or so at the end for those. So let's get started.
Lovely. So you're probably wondering, what is the difference between traditional and digital PR? And the answer is not that much. Digital PR is basically a combination of link building, which is a tactic that SEOs have used since the dawn of the internet, and combined with traditional PR. But nowadays, digital PR is very much synonymous with your brand. So as you can see here, we've got a list of lots of different traditional and digital PR strategies. Highlighted in the pink box, we have links and brand mentions in publications, which is typically what a lot of people associate with digital PR, and it's very much the case. It's very important, but it's also so much more than this. It's influencer collaborations. It's also traditional PR, such as reputation management, which we'll talk a little bit more later on.
Great. Thanks for the introduction. So now going a little bit into more how digital PR can go beyond just this online visibility that we all strive for and actually drive sales and really meet that end goal. So PR is not only a way to boost online visibility, it can also act as your store window to drive those offline conversions at the same time. Now, what we'll look at today is essentially a brand strategy lifecycle, which we've broken down into 3 stages, and I appreciate this differs very much from business to business, but in essence, this is what we would recommend from a digital marketing perspective. Stage 1 being what we've currently got going on, so our existing service and offering to our customer base, our target customers. Step 2, which will be the main bulk of today's webinar, is looking at digital strategies to drive those online and offline conversions. And then finally, what this means for our brand and how to necessarily deal with the success, so managing the reputation and the sentiment behind our brand. Let's start off. We'll be focusing on this number 2, so the digital strategies to drive both online and offline conversions. Now, we've all heard of the death of the high street, how consumer habits have changed over the last 5 to 10 years, with physical footfall now being replaced in its majority by digital traffic. Even with the first page of the SERPs, they've essentially become our high street shop windows for people to browse, information hunt, and make their purchasing decisions. And for many brands who are here today in the FMCG space or the F&B space, this can really risk a significant loss in sales that come from this casual passing trade that previous high streets used to bring us. So the question we want to really answer is, how can we make the most of these digital shop windows to not only boost that online visibility, but at the same time drive those in-person sales and that in-person footfall to our stores, to our restaurants that we're perhaps missing out on as shop fronts often close down and there's not necessarily as much buzz around the high street. So looking into kind of how customers are making their purchasing decisions from start to finish on that customer journey. As we all know, Google search used to really dominate the space there, and that used to be where everyone was making their purchasing decisions online. And although that is very much still the case, with Google search taking up the large majority and increasing year on year, we do have to be aware of the fact that there are so many other channels that customers are using to make their purchasing decisions, from social media, YouTube, other search platforms like Bing, as well as, of course, as we'll get onto later in the presentation, LLM platforms like ChatGPT. So let's get into the strategies. First, we'll be looking at influencer marketing, one of the main strategies that we see forming part of this overall brand strategy that we would recommend to boost those online and offline sales. Now, with 8.5 billion searches per day on social media platforms, making sure that we're making the most of as many of these as possible really needs to continue to be part of your overall marketing strategy. There are several things that influencer marketing and influencer collaborations can do. Building buzz around new store or branch openings to really drive that in-person footfall to your shops or to your restaurants, spotlighting new or seasonal products via influencer reviews, and then really tapping into those niche online communities for your target sector through brand ambassador partnerships. Now, looking into this in a bit more detail. First, reviews from influencers directly lead into that increased footfall. So for a lot of our clients, particularly in the food and beverage and restaurant space, we've partnered with influencers across Instagram and TikTok to promote a selection of our regional and priority branches. They then will produce some engaging, interactive content, whether those are posts, reels, videos, on any of the social platforms, and we're able to tap into not only those local communities, but also kind of that more niche food influencer community. Now, you may be asking yourself, how is this going necessarily beyond just promoting a bit of the glitz and glam around a new branch or a new store opening? And how can we really meet that end goal? I suppose it's a question that a lot of businesses are asking. How can we justify this to our stakeholders to get additional budget for a tactic like this? Looking specifically at this client that I've got in the screenshot here, one of our restaurant clients, we spent 3 to 6 months with an influencer marketing strategy for them, promoting their priority branches. And it was really great to see that year on year, some of these locations saw up to a 40% increase in bookings. So that's really kind of driving home the proof that a tactic like this can really increase footfall, increase in-person sales through an online digital strategy. Now, I suppose going beyond these one-off posts that influencers can do for us, they go and visit a restaurant, or they go and purchase something from our store and do a bit of a video around it. How can we really tap into these communities and build more hardier relationships with them? And that's really through brand ambassadors. So partnering with influencers on a longer term basis can not only help you build rapport with someone within that particular online community, but that person can then go beyond just promoting an individual product and really become a spokesperson for your brand, essentially an extension of the team. They can discuss the values behind the business, the story behind the business. Perhaps you've got a family-led business that you want to kind of highlight the roots of. And they can go much more beyond just promoting an individual image. So this is a nice example here from one of our favorite brand ambassadors, one of our favorite dog fluencers that we've been partnering with for a dog food brand. And we're now partnered with them to post much more consistently and tap into kind of the dog fluencer community that is reasonably kind of closed off, but not only that, really saturated with a lot of competitors. So making sure that we can really kind of present a long-standing relationship with a leading account on Instagram or on TikTok can really boost that online visibility. Now, one thing we really do for that is providing them with discount codes, and that can help them really engage their audience a bit further, and is really the direct route to that increased revenue that we all love to achieve. We've seen this working with a lot of our clients, and with discount codes in particular, they've proven a much more social media friendly way of offering up that incentive to the following of these influencers. Previously and still currently, we see a lot of influencers using UTM links in their bios, and although this does work and kind of still has value, it's slowly becoming clear that these overly promotional UTM links included in influencer bios can actually risk your content being pushed down the feed by the Instagram or TikTok algorithm. So we always encourage them to include a little bit more of a natural discount code within captions that they use. Now, with this in mind, we need to really be looking at kind of what social platforms we want to be targeting. It's all well and good kind of saying we can target absolutely everywhere, but the main thing is to really be targeting where our customers are sitting and where our customers are hunting for their information and their purchasing decisions. It's always kind of that last touch point that we look at, but it's really from the start of the customer journey that we need to be focusing on. Now, we've included a really nice example here from one of our other clients in the bird food space. Sort of initially, we were very much focusing on an Instagram focus strategy, but as we can see here from the Spark Toro diagram here, that those that are looking for kind of purchases within the bird food sector, there's a 12% above average using TikTok and a very kind of low or close to the average on Instagram. So that really helped us kind of shift our approach and make us realize that although all social media platforms are great for this approach, we really need to be targeting where our customers directly are. So in short, social media in all its variations needs to become a core part of kind of any marketing strategy, future-proof marketing strategy, because that's where customer journeys are happening. Influencer collaborators, social media brand ambassadors can really be an extension not only of your brand's team, but also of your physical storefront. So whilst boosting online awareness, it can really drive those offline conversions that we're striving for. And now a lot of you on the call may be thinking, but I'm already investing in PR and I'm already investing in organic social. And we're really here to tell you that the two fall into the same camp. The strategies that we use for this influencer marketing, it's very much the same formula that we use for targeting publications with press releases and articles and our more standard link building approach. So influencer marketing essentially slots perfectly into this digital PR and brand strategy rather than standing alone as its own, and can really see a lot more value if it forms part of this overall strategy rather than kind of this siloed thing.
Nice.
On to you.
And so our second strategy that we're going to be focusing on is product PR. This is typically seen more as a traditional PR approach, but it's very much something that we can do digitally as well. So the way that product PR works is that we would reach out to a journalist at a top tier national publication such as GQ, Country Living, The Telegraph, who often run seasonal, what we call listicles, which are essentially articles with lists of products, also known as gift guides. They can be very much tailored around seasonal events such as Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, all of which are coming up. So if this is a strategy that you're wanting to employ, definitely start doing that now. And what this does is they always include a link to your product, which can drive traffic to your product and as well as category pages, as well as ultimately producing sales as well. And a really good benefit of product PR is that if your product is featured in one list, it's often then going to be featured in another one that journalist may do later in the year. They may reach out to you for further products if it proves particularly successful. And something with listicles as well is they are very well optimized to appear in the SERPs, but to also appear in AI overviews. And obviously that's a very digital approach that I've just spoken to. So what does this mean if you don't just sell online? Well, if we take M&S as an example, as leaders in the food and beverage industry and typically very reliant on in-store sales, they're actually using a combined digital strategy and a consistent brand narrative in order to drive sales across their socials through TikTok Shop, their website, as well as in store. As you can see on the right there, they have this tag as seen on social, which is featured on category and product pages on their website, and actually is being used as in-store signage as well, to really drive customers to notice those products and eventually purchase them, as well as utilizing TikTok influencers as well to review these products and buy through the app as well. And they're all set up on TikTok Shop now. So it's really taking one approach and getting as much as you possibly can out of it to make sure that you're driving sales both offline and online. Our third strategy is LLM visibility. So as Gideon touched on earlier, there are 2.5 ChatGPT searches per day Usually the phrase is Google it. A lot of people now are saying AI it. And this is very much the top of the funnel that we're talking about. So when your customers are in their priming stage, they're gathering information, and they are often doing that through ChatGPT. And this is really where brands need to be visible so that customers can be aware of your brand, and later on, when they're making that purchasing decision, come to your brand for that. In fact, a recent study actually showed that 20% of young adults in the UK are using AI to plan their holidays. And we're very much seeing this trend being mirrored across FMCG, retail, and other B2C sectors. So Robbie Stein, Google's VP of Product for Google Search, has actually said that PR helps sites get recommended by AI, and that AI very much thinks like a person would in terms of the kind of questions they ask. So if you're being cited in AI, you're very much likely to be brought up when people are searching those sort of questions that AI has been optimized for. So a couple of studies just to reiterate this, the direct link between PR and AI visibility. A recent study from Press Gazette shows that journalism outlets are the most prominent source in AI answers, with 40% of those being featured. And furthermore, Ahrefs has done a study of 75,000 websites to see what factors correlate with most in AI overviews. And you can see the top one there is actually branded web mentions. Obviously, it's fantastic to have links from websites, from publications, but having a brand mention is just as important. And if you're consistently being featured in top tier national publications, as well as trade relevant publications to your brand as well, then this is going to make it much more likely that you're going to appear in AI overviews. And in fact, as you can see highlighted on here, 7 of the top 11 factors actually all relate to digital PR activity.
So with this in mind, Chloe's just given us a really kind of nice insight into the value of digital PR behind kind of optimizing for AI visibility. It's really important for businesses to start building out a bit of a timeline. So what do they need to be doing? What do you need to be doing for your business or for your clients in order to maximize AI visibility and kind of appearance in AI results? The first one being tracking your existing status, your existing presence within AI platforms. Now, as we all know, AI visibility is very much in the early stages, but there are lots of kind of dashboards and third-party tools that can be used to give us as good of an idea as we can get to where we're sitting among competitors in regards to AI visibility. And distinctly, we've been testing out a lot of different third-party tools, and for the moment, we've landed on PKI, which gives us really nice insight after you kind of insert all of your target search prompts. It does an analysis, and it gives us a great overview of where we're sitting in terms of an LLM visibility score, as well as kind of where our competitors are sitting, the search prompts that are featuring the most, and the domains that are kind of being pulled for that information. We'll then look at analyzing the responses. So not only kind of who is talking about the brand and when AI is talking about your brand, but what are they particularly saying, which topics are they finding the most useful and interesting from your brands to share answers with users. And then we can go kind of much deeper in that and uncover the citations. So it's looking at which websites, domains, articles are driving the most AI answers. So which platforms and domains are AI using in order to kind of provide information to users. And then, of course, the final stage being taken action. So how can we improve our visibility in AI search? One really important thing to kind of mention, and something that's been a lot of kind of discussion about in the industry over the last few kind of 6 to 12 months, but in particular recently, are that not all publications necessarily provide the same AI visibility value that we would like them to. So Screaming Frog did a great study here, kind of looking at the publications sort of from a national scope that are blocked by AI crawlers, or that are blocking AI crawlers and not allowing them to scrape for information in order to then replicate that for users. And these essentially kind of limit the inclusion of their articles in AI results, including the AI overviews. So what we traditionally see is kind of a large data-led campaign where our objective may be to kind of secure placements or backlinks in all the top-tier national publications in our target market. might not necessarily be the approach we want to use if our KPI is to increase visibility on LLM platforms for a certain search prompt or for a certain target page. Now, that's not to say that these top tier publications like the Mail Online, iNews, Metro, BBC are ones that we should avoid going for. They still offer us a huge amount of PR value. They are some of the largest publications in the world and have a huge online circulation as well as in print in a lot of cases. So it's definitely not something that we should avoid doing, but it's really finding that middle kind of sweet spot where we can have that PR value, but there's also that opportunity where we can be targeting publications that give us value for AI visibility. So with that in mind, over the last few months here at Distinctly, we've been putting together our own AI visibility white paper, which we can plug will hopefully be launched kind of over the next week or so. So we've researched over 6,500 data crossover points between publications across the UK and AI user agents, seeing which publications are allowing which AI user agents to crawl them in order to put information to then replicate in AI responses. So after we did that analysis, we began to map out the AI value of coverage in these sector publications. Now, there's a very overwhelming graph that you can see on the screen here. Each dot represents a specific publication that we have analysed for the AI crawlers, or the AI bots that are allowed or not allowed to crawl it for information, with each colour being a specific target sector. So we've split it down here with our horizontal axis essentially providing that PR value. So what is the online circulation? How many eyes are we getting on a piece of coverage if we were to land it in a specific publication? And then on the vertical axis here, we have the number out of 15 of the AI or LLM bots that we've analysed in terms of whether they are or aren't allowed to crawl the publication for information. And it's essentially this top right cell that we really want to be featuring, and that is the platinum tier of publication, one that has a huge amount of online circulation, but also allows the majority, or if not all, of AI LLM bots to be crawling that for information. So breaking that a little bit down into sectors, we've spoken a lot throughout this talk about the value of these strategies for B2C industries, FMCG, F&B, e-commerce, whatever it may be in that space. And we can see here the industries with the greatest opportunity for direct AI exposure through press coverage. So we can see things like food and drink, as we mentioned before, with a few examples from our restaurant clients or the M&S industry spotlight, beauty, retail, home and garden, as well as some other, I suppose, not B2C in that same fashion, not FMCG industries like law and education, having a lot of opportunity for AI visibility through direct press coverage. Looking at food and drink, for an example, we can see here that although not all those publications necessarily have as much online circulation we'd like, this is very normal and very common for something in a kind of a much more niche press vertical. We can see at the same time that the large majority of publications have most, if not all, of the AI bots kind of permitted to crawl them for information. So that really drives home the fact that coverage with the right story in a food or drink publication has a very good chance of being picked up in AI results. Now, something that I wanted to flag as well, which is very interesting and nice to see kind of across different industries, is that although BBC is one of the publications that blocks the highest number of AI bots to crawl it for information, BBC Good Food, on the other hand, allows all 15. So a real kind of huge win for the food and drink industry, with BBC Good Food being a dream publication to feature on. And showing here as well, those, although they don't have necessarily as much online circulation, they still allow all the LLM bots to be crawling it. So what does this really mean for our brand? How can we essentially prove? What's the evidence that featuring in these publications can actually provide us with that online visibility boost for our target pages or our target search terms? So looking at a few examples from some of our clients, we work with a travel business whose one big KPI is featuring in as many AI kind of touch points as possible. So we looked at promoting one of their local branches in Cornwall, particularly looking at kind of the best walking routes throughout the year in that particular location. We looked at targeting specific regional and national publications, as well as kind of local niche press within that area, those that not only have great online circulation, but also are crawlable by AI bots. We were able to secure this nice placement in Yahoo News, which was then promptly featured in the AI overview as one of the primary kind of source domains for that target prompt. And that's a great example of online kind of value that it can bring. In terms of the offline conversion that can also bring, is getting featured in local press and LLM cited domains can lead to specific reviews being featured in ChatGPT. So for one of our restaurant clients working on kind of prioritizing one of their local branches, we were able to secure reviews in Birmingham World and Yahoo News, which similar fashion to the previous slide. They were then promptly featured as kind of some of the key information and the key cited domains for this search prompt, kind of a general one looking at the quality of the restaurant. And that can then, of course, lead to increased footfall to the specific branch with all the positive information that the reviews are pulling through on ChatGPT. So what do these conversions mean for our brand? We've run over kind of 3 strategies, so influencer marketing, product PR, and LLM visibility. And what's important to know is that, as I mentioned before, many businesses, including those on the call today, may be investing in these 3 as separate services, when in fact, as Chloe mentioned before, and right at the start, kind of all of these fall into one camp of what PR really is now, and that's that overall brand strategy. And it's this combined service of all the different customer touchpoints across the purchasing journey. So what we always recommend to our clients is making sure that all of these strategies kind of fall into the same band, the same camp, just so we can make sure that there's real alignment across those tactics. So looking at what these conversions mean for our brand, of course, this increased footfall, this increased online visibility and traffic will lead to those sales and that kind of end goal revenue that we always want to be seeing. But we do have to be mindful of the fact that this means more opinions and more customers talking about our brand, and that's not always going to be positive. All of the above strategies and the success that they can bring, whether it's online visibility, in-store sales, LLM visibility, can really be squashed by any unmanaged negative sentiment that comes up around your brand as a very natural part of the process of getting more customers and getting more kind of bums on seats in restaurants and footfall to your stores. And this is the 3rd section of this brand strategy lifecycle that we want to be focusing on now. As part of that, we need to make sure that this brand strategy cycle is continuous. So referring back to those steps 1 and 2, so looking at adapting our offering and strategy in response to any negative sentiment around our brand, and then using digital strategies, including those that we've referenced before, to continue driving those conversions. But like I said, making sure that that cycle continues as a constant process and we're never really stopping at success. So how do we keep track of brand sentiment? Every customer touch point that we've spoken about up until now, and not limited to those, really gives us nice kind of nuggets of information and clues as to how people are talking about our brand. It's as simple as a review on a review platform. We can look at LLM responses, that is pulling information from places that our customers are going to be kind of engaging with, going to be reading articles on, as well as something a bit more kind of novel, like predictive search, where people don't often look at the kind of adjectives that are suggested around their brand name, and that is being pulled from information. And as part of this, we really need to be making a conscious effort to improve sentiment wherever possible around our brand. And so we've split this into 2 camps. All of the stuff that we can control and fully control, which is obviously great. It can be things like what we would always recommend kind of within the PR industry, and everyone knows EAT and the value behind kind of amplifying the expertise, authority, trustworthiness of your brand. So wherever possible, using kind of own media content, whether that's case studies, white papers, blog articles, just to kind of maximize the exposure of the experts within your team and the business itself and the brand itself. Is a perfect way of kind of building positive sentiment around the brand, because that's what people are really seeing. Influencer marketing, so this third-party UGC content, where we can really get people to kind of promote the value of our business or of our products. The press mentions and the LLM targeted link building, as well as this kind of general crisis preparedness and the ability to be able to respond kind of directly to any issues. And that leads nicely into what we can influence, but not fully control. But it's something that we still need to be aware of. And that is, of course, responding to negative reviews. This can be on review platforms, social media, forums, community, local group pages. And like I said, it's not necessarily something we control. We can't control what people say about our brand or what people's experiences are. But responding to that negative sentiment around the brand is of the utmost importance. And kind of one key thing with that is ensuring that wherever possible, our messaging, our responses, the narrative behind our responses, the tone of voice behind our responses is consistent across all touch points. And that's really important just so users can kind of, and customers, they can rely on you to manage any issues in a consistent fashion. And that leads really nicely onto what Chloe's going to talk about now.
Yeah, exactly. So all of these tactics and strategies that we've mentioned all have one major thing in common, and that is having a consistent brand narrative. Before you can do any of these strategies and tactics, you need to make sure that you know who your brand is. As you can see here in this infographic, brand narrative affects how influencers are speaking about you, type of media coverage that you're getting, and how you're presenting and positioning your stories, as well as socials, as well as reviews and your website content and everything that we've spoken about previously on in this webinar. So if you're asking yourself, who is my brand? How would we respond to negative reviews? And you're not quite sure of the answer, then what we really recommend you do is to hold a brand workshop. This can also be done every time your brand evolves, whether that's you have a new product line come out and you're targeting a new demographic, whether legislation changes in the industry. A really nice example of this is that Oatly can now legally no longer be called milk. So that's definitely their team should be getting into a room, holding a brand workshop and seeing how they can reposition this and pivot, whether they should use humour in their marketing or not. And doing this means that you can be consistent across every touch point, including your website, socials, newsletters, and press releases. So what are the sort of questions that you should be asking in these brand workshops? We've got a list of them here. Different ones include where would you want the brand to be in 3 years? What do you want customers to be saying about your brand? What kind of brands are you looking up to? And once you've really established your answers to these questions, you can then go ahead and create some brand personas to ensure consistent narrative across all of your strategies. And you can even invest in a research study to see who your target demographic is and who your actual current customers are. And you can then find out how you can close this gap. Nice. So you may have heard search everywhere, and that may make you think that you need to be on every single social media. You need to be doing newsletters and Substack and all of these different marketing tactics. But actually, it's search everywhere your customer is. So if your ideal customer is a 60-something-year-old man who's tending his allotment every single day, then probably utilizing influencer marketing on TikTok wouldn't be quite the right fit for your brand. So how do we measure brand marketing? 84% of customers are actually more likely to purchase from brands they know versus those they don't. And further to this, 68% of customers will actually pay more for your brand if they know who you are. So think of a brand that you absolutely love. You'll often see a reel of publications on their website, such as seen in BBC or The Telegraph. Being featured in these top tier publications really builds trust and credibility for your brand, and it shows that that customers can trust your brand, as well as becoming more and more aware of who they are simply for how much you're mentioned across publications, as well as socials, and appearing in the SERPs. So as we've spoken about, all of these strategies can lead to revenue. So tracking discount codes used by brand ambassadors, and direct purchases through things like TikTok Shop. These are really key parts of brand marketing success. But actually 80% of measuring that success really comes from awareness and engagement. As we said before, if your customers aren't aware that your brand exists, then you're never going to get that revenue. So measuring awareness through hashtag numbers on social media, monitoring brand sentiment, exposure to your target customer and their demographics, as well as engagement such as your social media following, the engagement on those videos, looking at branded search on socials, but also on Google and AI, where you're able to measure it, is a really, really important part of making sure that your brand strategies are working. And really, these are long-term investments. This is something that you have to be doing for a long time to see a significant change in your brand and in how people perceive your brand in the way that you want them to. So in summary, you need to know who your brand is in order to establish your target audience. You can then discover where you need to be building your brand and therefore start utilizing strategies to engage your target audience and drive sales. This can then be done through all the strategies that we've talked about during the webinar, in terms of influencer marketing, product PR, and reputation management and LLM exposure. If you want to know more or you want to discuss any of your own brand strategies, then please reach out to myself or Gideon on LinkedIn, or our emails are there on the screen. You can just drop us an email and we'd love to talk more. Lovely. So thank you so much for joining. We have a bit of time for some questions. So drop them in the Q&A box if you have any, and we can get around to them.
Yes. So we've had one come through now. Sometimes a hashtag ad post, so looking at kind of our influencer marketing, can have lower engagement than organic postings. How do you navigate low engagement that influencers sometimes see on gifted product posts? It's a very good question. I think a very natural part of influencer marketing. We've had a lot of experiences with kind of influencer collaborators not necessarily seeing the same engagement on their kind of hashtag ad or hashtag gifted posts that they do in kind of their more organic posts. And I think the brand ambassador kind of strategy that we mentioned before is a really nice way for them to be able to kind of break that barrier. Often, a lot of the time, you may experience this yourself kind of as someone who follows influencers, you might not necessarily believe and see as much trust and credibility if someone just does a one-off single hashtag ad post, but building this longer term relationship with influencer collaborators in the form of a brand ambassador really helps them go beyond just promoting your product on a one-off basis and like I mentioned before, becoming a bit of an extension of your team or a bit of a spokesperson for your business. And that just naturally and slowly becomes a little bit more organic, although the kind of the root of the posts are a hashtag ad or a hashtag gifted. The nature of them and what their viewers and their followers can see becomes a little bit more organic, and they start to see a little bit more trust and credibility behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any other questions before we finish up? As far as I can see,
I think
that's it.
So
thank you for that question. And as Chloe mentioned before, if you have any questions or want to discuss your own brand strategy, please feel free to drop us a line via email or kind of connect with us on LinkedIn. The recording of this webinar will also be uploaded soon to the Distinctly website, so you'll have a chance to kind of review the slides and everything we've said today. And just before we finish, we'd really love to kind of plug the next episode of the Distinctly webinar series, where our colleague Matt Foster, Senior Digital PR Manager, will be discussing how data can power digital PR success to improve AI visibility. So really kind of following on from a lot of what we've spoken today, Matt will be talking about targeted press outreach to maximize AI visibility, how the AI search landscape and the changes within that have influenced digital PR, and why brand marketing strategies not only need evolution, not revolution. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been lovely speaking to you, and we hope to see you in the next webinar.
thank you so much for joining.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.